So guys, let's talk about design thinking. Alright. Um, Design thinking in product design or UI UX design includes the standard steps, okay, or stages that the designer passes through while designing a product prototype. Basically, is the way the designer thinks and acts during the design process. Alright. So sometimes in some cases the design thinking process or the stages of a design process it depends on the designer himself or herself. So those creative and experienced designers usually come up with their own custom design thinking process. All right. Once again, the design thinking process is the different stages that the designer passed through. Okay, starting from the research, okay, all the way to the final test and launch. And handover. Okay, so these are the different stages that the designer passes through while working on a UI UX or a product prototype, right? So, but we have the standard design thinking process, okay, right here on the screen, okay, divided into four main stages, okay. But we have a final stage which is not necessarily part of the prototype design process, okay. That is why it's separated from the main stages. So we have the research stage, okay. This is the stage where the designer begins a research. For example, when you are about to begin a prototype design process or UI UX project, you don't open Figma or Adobe XD or whichever platform you are using. You don't open it and start designing from the immediately. You have to go through some research process. Okay, talking about the user research. This is where we try to understand the user, the people whom we are about to design for. Okay, if you don't understand the user, there is no how you can design a good prototype or a good product. Since you are a user interface or user experience designer, what makes you good in what you do is your understanding of the user or your target user. So this stage is where you try to understand those who are going to use your product. Every product has specific target users, either one, two, or three specific target users, okay? People who you are targeting. So you have to research and find out who are your target users and what do you need to know about them in order for you to think like them, okay? That is when we go to the empathize stage. After you research the users, you now start to try to empathize with them, okay? This is where you draft out user persona, user scenario, user testing, user experience map, okay? Basically, this empathize stage is where you start thinking like the users that you just discovered at this stage, okay? You try to see things from their point of view, okay? Put yourself in the user's position. What can you do to make this product usable, okay? Or what can you do to provide solution to the challenges of the users? That is the empathize stage. When the designer starts thinking like the users, you put yourself in their position and view things from their point of view, and then make decision like the user, okay? So yeah, that's the empathize stage. And after that, you now go to the creative stage. This is where you now start your design from wireframe and then prototype design. All right, so this is the main design stage. After you have completed the research and the empathize stage, you now open whichever tool you are using, whether it's Figma or Adobe XD or other tools. You now design your wireframe, design your prototype. All right, and then you do it from the user's point of view once again. So this includes wireframes, mood board, mockups, and then style guide, this also makes up your design system. All right. So at this stage, you are also designing or creating your design system at this stage, or your UI kit. All right. Then finally, we have test. Okay. So after you design your prototype at this stage, you have to test it through usability tests, review metrics. You track the usage, live tracking using Maze or other platforms, and then inform next iteration. Iteration means coming back to your creative stage and then making changes or effecting corrections, okay, that you must have gathered from the testing stage. So you can jump between these two steps over and over and over again until you get a usable prototype. You create, test, and then go back to the drawing board, okay, iterate, test again, go back to the drawing board until you get something that is usable by the user, something that you are okay with All right, that's where you now hand it over for development. All right, or to the stakeholder. So these are the standard stages design thinking process of every product designer. But like I say, remember that as you gain more experience, you tend to come up with your own custom process. Okay, you don't necessarily have to stick to this process. Okay, with experience we discover that yes, there are some changes that you need to make depending on your comfort or depending on your design style. All right, but don't forget, the design thinking process are the different stages involved in a design project or design process, which include research, empathize, create, and test. Okay, so let me know how you can come up with a good custom design system for a specific project, and we can do a tutorial on that and educate you on that. So for now, see you on the next video.